Hello, this is Dakota Fred, and we're going to follow up on our panning video that we did last week. I'm going to show you a little bit how to get that fine gold separated from black sand and other little small particles that are always a little bit pesky in that pan. There's a little advanced techniques here, and years ago, many years ago, we used old pans just like this, old metal pans, just had flat bottom, no ridges. Now if you were really good, you could use one of these, and you can still get them. Then we advanced into a little bit more advanced metal pan. We decided we wanted a little ridge in there. These little metal pans, they worked good, except they didn't have any ridges in them. Well, pretty soon we advanced into plastic, and they put a few little ridges. This is a pan, this is just a practice pan, and it works just about as well as a regular pan. And I'm going to show you how to do this with a little small practice pan. Remember last week, folks, we showed you how to do a little bit of rough panning. And here, remember, we put the dirt in there, we put the pan in there. We want to make your circle. And you want to pour it off, and all your gold has sunk to the bottom. Now, what we're going to do is, remember, we put the pan in there level and tilt it back just a little. And we went straight line, 1 foot straight line, back and forth. And you see the material falling off both sides. Keep your wrist stiff, go back and forth. Big wave going back and forth in there. Now, when you get down toward the end, you're going to get some stuff that kind of looks like some black sand in there. I'm going to show you that that technique will work, even though it looks like it's a little rough, but all you do is slow the pan down. Just slow your motion down a little bit. At this point in time, your material, your gold is still hiding down underneath there. And what we're trying to do, I'm going to show you a couple of techniques of how to get that out of there. Remember, your gold is still underneath in the bottom down there, right in that little ridge down in there. You just have to have a little bit of faith that that's where it's at. If you have any doubts about it, put you a little water in there. Do your little circle thing again. And pour it out. And your material, your gold is still down in the very bottom down there. Now you're going to use your same technique, except you're going to go much slower. But you're still just a little gentler. Instead of really going back and forth, you are just going to go gentler. And you watch real close. If you see anything coming out the front of your pan, you want to stop. And I see one little piece of gold right here trying to come out of my pan. All you have to do, put you a little water in there and shake it back down to the bottom. Continue this process. This is not real fast, but you have to be just real careful with it. You can see a lot of gold coming up in the back right here. Just do this very gently and watch. And if you see gold, which I see a little bit of gold right here, fine gold right there, trying to come out into that, out by the second ridge out here. As you see, I can see a little speck of gold that got in front of this ridge right here. So what I want to do still, it's a repetitive process. Put your little water in there, tilt it back, and shake it back down. You can pour your water off, and you can start seeing some gold coming up right here. Now I'm going to show you, you get down as far as you can go with this. And your little light material is running all over in that pan. Now, here's where I'm going to stop you. We're going to put some water in the pan. We're going to shake it back down. We're going to use the side of the pan with no ridges. And so you just bring your material over to the side that has no ridges. You can see how that is hiding your gold. Your gold is still in underneath the bottom here. But it looked like you don't have anything in there. Wrong. Be real careful. Put your pan in there, tilt it back a little. Real slow. Go back and forth. Now, I'm going to tell you a technique right now, how I do it a lot. Sometimes it's real pesky. You can see the gold up here in the back. But if I'm looking up in here, in this little bit of stuff, I'm using my finger or my thumb, push the stuff that I know has very little or no gold in it off the edge of the pan. Every once in a while I shake it back in the pan, and every time I see some of that black sand coming out that has no gold in it or big pieces, or if I think it's gold, I push it back. Just use your thumb, push a little bit of that black sand stuff out of there. Keep just tilting it back into the back of the pan, straight line, nice and gentle. And you can see this has got no gold in it right here. If you think it's gold, push it back in the pan. If you can see it has no gold, wipe it off. Continue the process. Shake it down into the bottom a little bit. Pretty soon you see all kinds of little bitty small pieces just coming out of this. Since you don't want any, your gold is almost about a third of the way out of the pan right now. But right out here, there is no gold. Use your thumb. Use your finger. Just wipe that off. It doesn't happen in one process. It takes numerous times when you really get down fine. You see this black sand moving out here? Has no gold in it. Just take your finger, put on there, and wipe it off. Do it again. Every time you just put a little bit of water in there. Can you see that black sand coming out of there? Just keep it underwater. If there's some right there that I know I can safely move out, and right here. But that piece has got a little piece of gold in it. Flip it back down in the bottom of the pan and literally just kind of make it go back and forth. Repeatedly, you have little sand, you can just keep moving your finger over it. Sometimes you got to get a little vigorous with it. Keep it in the back of the pan. Shake it around, then very gently, you see the whisker effect here? Still in a straight line. You can get rid of that. This little sand, that little sand right there, you can put it underwater, wipe it off. There's some right here, there's no gold in it. Put it back in the back of the pan. Every time you do this, you'll see some black sand coming out. And wipe that right out. Now, some of that black sand you can't do right now because it's mixed with gold in there. But every time you do that, you can pretty well see the gold is staying back here, and there's a little piece of black sand right there that you want to get rid of, and you just be real careful. Just put your finger in there, get rid of that. If you think there's any gold coming out of there, you flip it back and put a little bit of water in your pan, shake it down into the bottom there. But as you do, as you're going back and forth with your little technique, it forces the black sand out. The lighter material comes right out of that pan. And if you just repeat this process until you have almost no sand left, but you're using a pan that is smooth over here. Whoop, there's a little piece right there that's trying to get out. Push your gold back into the back with your finger. But there's a whole string of black sand right there that you can get rid of. A bunch of black sand right there that you can get rid of. It is a repetitive process. See the black sand come out right up here? Now I can't do any of this because, whoops, I can just go ahead and push this gold right back here. There's a little bit of gold there. I see just a hair of it, but there's none in that, and there's none in that. And I can use my thumb or finger. There's a little piece of gold. You won't get it all in one shot. It's impossible. And eventually, you wind up with some good, clean gold. As you see, we've got some good, clean gold, but it's a process, a repetitive process. One thing after another. You have to just keep panning it. Use your thumb or your finger. Perfectly legitimate. That's just one way to separate the gold from black sand. There are 100 ways to do it. None of them are wrong. You develop your own technique after you understand the basics of what you're doing. So that's the way I do it. It works for me. I think it'll work for you too. Thank you, folks.